I am not sure if we should get married. I need time to think about everything. My girlfriend said 20 days before our $35K wedding with no explanation why I stood there frozen as 4 years together. Suddenly hung in limbo when I finally canceled everything to protect our 120 guests from wasting money. Her true colors. I am Dima 30M civil engineer here in Portland. Been with my girlfriend Izzy, 28F, for 4 years. Engaged for 1, wedding planned for May 25th, exactly 20 days from today. Everything's been organized and paid for months in advance. Total cost around $35K that I covered myself since I make decent money and Izzy's marketing coordinator salary is pretty modest. 8 days ago, completely out of nowhere, Izzy drops this bomb, Dima. I am not sure if we should get married. I need time to think about everything. I was blindsided. What do you mean? What has changed? Did something happen? I don't know. I don't know if I am ready for this. That was literally her explanation. I don't know. No specifics about what she is uncertain about, no particular incident that triggered doubts, just vague unease that apparently materialized from thin air. I have been trying to understand what is going on for over a week now. Asked if it is about our relationship, our future plans, the wedding itself, my job situation, family pressure, anything that might give me something concrete to work with. Every conversation ends the same way. I just don't know. Dima, I cannot explain it. This isn't like her at all. Izzy's usually decisive and communicative about problems. We have never had major relationship issues. No cheating, no financial stress, no family drama. 3 weeks ago, she was excited about our honeymoon plans and talking about painting the guest bedroom when we get back. I suggested couples counseling to work through whatever's bothering her. She refused. This is something I need to figure out myself, but we are supposed to be partners. Izzy, if you are having doubts about marrying me, shouldn't we talk about it together? I cannot talk about something when I don't understand it myself. The timing is killing me. We have got 120 people flying in from across the country. My brother Stellan is coming from Chicago with his family. Izzy's cousins are driving down from Vancouver. The venue, catering, photographer, DJ, everything's locked in with deposits that become non-refundable after the 30-day deadline, which passed 10 days ago. Her sister Ophelia keeps telling me to give her space and that cold feet are normal. But this doesn't feel like normal pre-wedding nerves. Normal nerves are about specific worries, budget concerns, family dynamics, fear of change. This is just nothing. Unexplained uncertainty that she will not even attempt to explain. My best friend Cass thinks something triggered this and she is not telling me what it is. People don't just wake up one morning unsure about someone they have been planning to marry for a year, but I have gone through everything I can think of. No major changes in our lives. No new stressors. No conflicts with friends or family. If anything, things have been really good lately. I got promoted to senior project manager 2 months ago. We have been house hunting, talking about kids in a few years. The worst part is watching her act completely normal about everything except the wedding. She is still living here, still sleeping in our bed, still making dinner plans and talking about weekend activities. But mention the wedding and she shuts down immediately. Yesterday, I asked if she wanted me to start calling vendors about potential postponement. I don't know, she said. Maybe. I just need more time. How much time? Izzy, people have booked flights and hotels. My parents took vacation days they cannot reschedule. We need to make a decision. I cannot be rushed into this. Dima, if you really love me, you will understand that I need to be sure. That felt like emotional manipulation. But maybe I am being unfair. Maybe she is genuinely struggling with something she cannot articulate, and I am making it worse by pressuring her for explanations. But 20 days. Reddit. 20 days until our wedding date, and I have no idea if my girlfriend actually wants to marry me or not. Is this normal pre-wedding anxiety that I should just ride out? Or is this her way of telling me she wants out but doesn't have the courage to say it directly? I love this woman, and I thought she loved me, but I cannot read her mind. I need something, anything to work with. Besides, I don't know. How long do I wait for clarity that might never come while our guests spend money traveling to a wedding that might not happen? Update 1 had to cancel the wedding. Now she is blaming me for all the financial losses. My phone's been blowing up since I posted. Thanks for all the support, even the tough love comments telling me to wake up. So I took Reddit's advice and made the call. With 6 days left before losing even more money to vendor penalties, I canceled the wedding, called the venue, catering, photographer, DJ, everyone. Managed to recover about $8K of the $35K total, which is better than losing everything. The guest notification was brutal. Had to call my parents, Izzy's family, all our friends, my brother flying in from Chicago with his kids who were excited to be ring bearer and flower girl. Most people were understanding, but I could hear the disappointment in their voices. Is everything okay with you two? My mom asked. I honestly don't know, I told her. Izzy says she is unsure about marriage and will not explain why. When I told Izzy I had canceled everything, her reaction shocked me. You canceled our wedding without talking to me first. Izzy, we have been talking about this for over a week. You keep saying you don't know if you want to get married. I was protecting our families from wasting money on travel expenses. I never said I didn't want to marry you. I said I needed time to process my feelings. What is the difference? You wouldn't give me any timeline or explanations. The deadline was today. She broke down crying, which made me feel like a complete asshole. Maybe I had jumped the gun. Maybe she was just working through normal anxiety and needed a few more days to sort it out. That is when she agreed to couples counseling. Fine, if it will help you understand that you overreacted. We got an emergency session with Dr. Hayes yesterday. I thought maybe having a neutral third party would help Izzy articulate whatever she had been struggling to explain. Boy, was I wrong about what that session would reveal. Dr. Hayes asked Izzy to describe her concerns about marriage. Instead of talking about her uncertainty, Izzy spent 20 minutes explaining how I had overreacted by canceling the wedding and how the financial losses were my fault. Dimitri assumed I didn't want to get married instead of supporting me through a difficult emotional period. She told the therapist he chose to panic instead of showing faith in our relationship. I sat there stunned as my girlfriend described me as the problem for responding to her repeated statements about not being sure about marriage. Dr. Hayes asked Izzy, "What specifically were you uncertain about?" I was just feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of the commitment. Normal pre-wedding nerves that would have passed if Dimitri had been patient. But you told me you didn't know if you wanted to get married, I said. I was expressing normal anxiety, not calling off our engagement. You turned my vulnerability into a crisis. The gaslighting was so smooth, I almost believed her version of events, but I remembered our conversations clearly. Her exact words weren't about feeling overwhelmed. They were about not knowing if she could go through with this. Dr. Hayes turned to me. Dimitri, how did you interpret Izzy's statements about uncertainty? She said she wasn't sure if we should get married and couldn't explain why. When I suggested working through it together, she refused counseling and wouldn't discuss specifics. With 120 people traveling and thousands in non-refundable deposits at stake, I felt like I had to make a decision. See, Izzy said to the therapist, he prioritized money over supporting me emotionally. That is when it clicked. This whole thing had been some kind of test. Izzy created uncertainty right before our wedding to see how I would respond, then blamed me for responding practically, instead of begging her to marry me. Izzy, I said, if you wanted to get married all along, why couldn't you just say that when I asked directly? Because you made it about deadlines and money instead of reassuring me that you wanted me as your wife regardless of my fears. The manipulation was breathtaking. She had created a crisis, refused to communicate, waited until financial pressure was maximum, then blamed me for not reading her mind about what she actually wanted. Dr. Hayes suggested we schedule weekly sessions to work through our communication issues. I agreed, but spent the drive home realizing this wasn't a communication problem. It was a manipulation problem. Cass called me that night. Bro, she created drama to test your devotion, then blamed you when you chose to protect your families instead of playing her game. That is not pre-wedding nerves. That is emotional manipulation. I am starting to think he is right. Someone who manufactures crisis right before major life events, and then blames you for responding responsibly isn't someone I can trust with marriage. The wedding was supposed to be in 12 days. Instead, I am questioning everything I thought I knew about the woman I wanted to spend my life with. But yesterday, something happened that made me realize this pattern goes way deeper than just wedding anxiety. Update 2. Been dealing with work overtime all week. Finally got time to update. The therapy session was the beginning of the end, but it took a few more weeks to fully understand what I had been living with. After that first session where Izzy blamed me for the cancellation, we had 3 more appointments. Each one followed the same pattern. Dr. Hayes would ask Izzy to explain her feelings, and Izzy would redirect the conversation to how my responses were inadequate. "Dimitri doesn't make me feel secure when I am vulnerable," she told the therapist. "He jumps to practical solutions instead of providing emotional support." Dr. Hayes asked what kind of support she needed. He should have reassured me that he'd marry me regardless of timing or cost, not threatened me with deadlines. But I hadn't threatened her with deadlines. I had explained the practical realities of having 120 people travel for an event she couldn't confirm she wanted. The breaking point came during our 4th session when Dr. Hayes asked directly, "Izzy, do you want to marry Dimitri?" "Of course I do. I have always wanted to marry him. The problem is that he doesn't trust my commitment when I am processing emotions." That is when I finally spoke up. "You literally said, 'I don't know if I can go through with this,' and refused to explain why for 8 days. How is that expressing commitment? You should have known I didn't mean it literally. How could I know that when you wouldn't clarify what you actually meant?" Izzy turned to Dr. Hayes. "See how he makes everything my fault?" This is exactly the dynamic I was trying to work through before the wedding. The therapist looked confused. "Izzy, it sounds like you wanted Dimitri to interpret uncertainty as a request for reassurance, rather than addressing the uncertainty directly." "Yes, that is what partners do. They support each other through difficult emotions instead of abandoning ship." But I hadn't abandoned ship. I had tried to support her through whatever was bothering her. She had refused every attempt at conversation or problem solving. That night I told Cass about the session. "Dude, she wanted you to beg her to marry you. When you responded like a responsible adult instead of a desperate teenager, she blamed you for not playing her game correctly." He was right. This wasn't about pre-wedding nerves or communication issues. This was about control and manipulation through manufactured crisis. I ended our engagement the next morning, told Izzy I couldn't marry someone who created problems to test my devotion, then blamed me for not solving them psychically. Her reaction confirmed everything. Instead of sadness or attempts to work things out, she was furious that I was giving up on us when she was ready to move forward. "I was willing to reschedule the wedding and start fresh," she said, "but apparently you care more about being right than about our relationship." Even while breaking up, she was blaming me for her behavior. I moved out that weekend while she was visiting her sister. Ophelia sent me angry texts about abandoning Izzy when she needed me most, but I was done being responsible for other people's manufactured drama. The next few weeks were rough, but also clarifying. Without constant crisis management, I realized how much energy I had been spending on Izzy's emotional manipulation cycles. About a month later, mutual friends started filling me in on Izzy's version of events. According to her, I had gotten cold feet and canceled our wedding because I was too immature for marriage. She told people I had abandoned her when she needed support most and couldn't handle normal relationship challenges. The rewriting of history was incredible. In her version, she had been the stable one wanting to work things out while I panicked and ran. None of our friends knew about her refusing counseling, her inability to explain her concerns, or her blaming me in therapy for responding to her stated uncertainty. But I didn't waste energy correcting the record. People who knew us both would figure it out eventually, and people who only heard her side weren't my problem anymore. My brother Stellan summed it up perfectly. "Sounds like she wanted a wedding day performance where you proved your devotion by overcoming her manufactured obstacles. When you treated it like real life with real consequences, she blamed you for not following her script." The relief of not having to decode someone else's hidden meanings or manage their emotional games was incredible. I threw myself into work, got promoted to senior project manager, used the wedding money to put a down payment on a house, started taking the trips I had postponed during the relationship, went hiking in the Cascades, took that photography workshop I had been interested in, visited college friends I hadn't seen in years because Izzy always found reasons why those weekends wouldn't work. 3 months out, I can see the pattern clearly. Izzy created uncertainty to test my willingness to chase her, then blamed me for not chasing hard enough. Someone who plays games with major life events will play games with everything. The best part, I heard through friends that she got engaged again 6 months later to some guy from her work. Same pattern. 2 weeks before their planned wedding date, she suddenly wasn't sure and couldn't explain why. That relationship ended when he also chose to cancel rather than beg her to marry him. Now mutual friends understand what I was dealing with. "We thought you had just gotten cold feet," my friend Marcus told me, but after watching her do the exact same thing to Jake, we realized she has got some kind of pattern. Some people are addicted to drama, and will create it if it doesn't exist naturally. I am grateful I learned that before we actually got married and I had to deal with this pattern for years. The house is quiet, but it is a peaceful quiet. No manufactured crises to manage, no hidden meanings to decode, no emotional tests to pass or fail. Just normal life with normal problems that have normal solutions. That is worth way more than any wedding could have been. Final update: car trouble had me stuck all day Tuesday. Finally got time to write. Cannot believe it has been a full year since the wedding that never happened. Life looks completely different now. So the promotion to senior project manager came with a $15K raise that I have been investing instead of spending on someone else's lifestyle. The house I bought with the wedding money has already appreciated $25K according to my realtor. Turns out financial stability is easier when you are not funding someone else's emotional drama. I have been traveling more, went to Japan last month, planning a trip to Scotland this summer. Amazing how much money you save when you are not constantly managing someone else's manufactured crises. The engineering projects have been incredible too. Just finished designing a bridge renovation that will serve the community for decades. There is something satisfying about building things that last, instead of trying to fix relationships that thrive on instability. Work buddies keep asking when I am going to start dating again. Honestly, I am in no rush. After years of walking on eggshells around someone's emotional manipulation, being able to make plans without wondering if they will become tests of devotion feels like a superpower. As for Izzy, the pattern became obvious to everyone eventually. After the engagement with Jake fell apart the same way ours did, she moved to Seattle for a fresh start. According to Ophelia, she has been cycling through relationships, but keeps having commitment issues right before major milestones. Her sister finally asked me for coffee last month to apologize. I thought you had given up on her too easily, Ophelia said. But after watching her do this to 3 more guys, I realize you probably saved yourself years of that manipulation. Apparently Izzy's been in therapy working on her abandonment, fears that cause her to test relationships when she feels vulnerable. The therapist's interpretation is that she sabotages commitment because she is afraid of being rejected, so she creates crisis to see if partners will fight for her. That is probably accurate, I told Ophelia, but understanding why someone manipulates you doesn't make the manipulation healthy to live with. The weird thing is, I don't feel bitter about any of it anymore. That experience taught me the difference between normal relationship challenges and systematic emotional manipulation. Normal challenges involve 2 people working together to solve problems. Manipulation involves one person creating problems for the other to solve while moving the goalposts. I actually ran into Izzy at Powell's Books a few weeks ago. She looked good but seemed nervous. We chatted for maybe 5 minutes about work in the city, kept it surface level. I want you to know I understand now why you canceled the wedding, she said before we parted ways. My therapist helped me see that I was putting you in impossible situations. I appreciated her saying that, but I also noticed she framed it as impossible situations rather than taking full responsibility for creating those situations intentionally. Even in her apology, there was still some distance from ownership. I hope therapy helps you build healthier relationships, I told her sincerely, because I actually do hope that for her, not because I want her back, but because everyone deserves to outgrow their destructive patterns. My parents ask occasionally if I am lonely living alone. The answer is no. There is a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. I was lonelier during the relationship, constantly wondering if I was failing some test I didn't know I was taking. Now I hang out with friends without analyzing whether my social choices meet someone else's unstated expectations. I make weekend plans without wondering if they will become evidence of my inadequacy. I solve actual problems instead of manufactured ones. Cass summed it up perfectly last week. You traded someone who created drama for sport for a life where drama only exists when actual problems need solving. That is not settling, that is winning. The house has a workshop in the garage where I have been building furniture, chairs, tables, shelves. There is something therapeutic about creating things that serve clear purposes instead of trying to fix emotional puzzles designed to be unsolvable. Maybe I will meet someone eventually who views partnerships as teamwork instead of testing grounds. But I am not searching desperately or compromising my peace for company. I learned that being alone is infinitely better than being with someone who turns love into a series of loyalty tests. Some people need drama to feel loved. They create uncertainty to generate pursuit, manufacture problems to feel needed. design tests to prove devotion. I am not interested in auditioning for love anymore. The woman I eventually choose to build a life with will be someone who solves problems with me instead of creating them for me. Someone who communicates clearly instead of expecting me to decode hidden meanings. Someone who sees our relationship as a foundation to build on, not a performance to evaluate. Until then, I am building the kind of life that can accommodate love without requiring it. Strong foundation, clear communication, honest dealing. Turns out those engineering principles work for personal life too. The wedding that never happened taught me exactly what I don't want in a marriage. That is probably worth $35K of education.